can't get the orientation wrong either. You don't need to know anything about electronics. Anyone can make one of these, really. It's not that hard. And you just to solder that in. Leave that till last. Make all the other ones first so there's not too much heat. And there we go. So I'm going to make a water level indicator for the waste tank and the water tank, freshwater tank. I did look at some units you can buy, but they're quite expensive. So really for my needs, I just need to know, I just need an indicator for when I'm filling up the freshwater tank, to know when it's getting near the top, so I know when to stop putting the water in, so I don't overflow it. And the waste one, I just need to know when that one gets full. I don't need level gauge or anything, although you could actually, with this circuit I've got here, you could expand on that and maybe have 3 LEDs, one, you know, full, middle, quarter, whatever. Yeah, so this is quite a simple circuit, and I've simplified it a little bit more, and I worked out it costs under £10 to make one of these, including a little box to put it in. You could do it cheaper. I have got one somewhere. Where is it? There it is. I've got one here which is just literally the components soldered together with wires on. You know, just put some heat shrink over these components. That would equally work just as well. You wouldn't need the box or anything if you can find somewhere to tuck it out of the way, but as I need to, as we're going to put it in the box and everything just to keep it neat and tidy, I've included that. So what we have, this is the circuit, very, very basic. So all there is a transistor, 2 resistors, an LED and resistor combined. You can buy these off eBay, so you don't have to worry about your resistor for the LED. That's all built in. So I've sort of ringed that just to show it. But if you were doing a separate LED, separate resistor, you would need a 330 ohm resistor. But this is the best way to do it in a little package. You can't get the orientation wrong either. You don't need to know anything about electronics to do, you know, to get your LED the right way around, because it's all pre-wired. So it makes it simple. So if you've got a soldering iron, bit of solder, can follow a diagram. You know, anyone can make one of these, really. It's not that hard. Although I would encourage anyone to get into electronics. That is a really interesting hobby. I've been messing around with circuits for years. Built everything from my own car alarm to guitar amps, guitar pedal effects, radios, all sorts of things. It's quite interesting, especially in the winter when it's cold. You don't want to go outside. Keeps you occupied. Right, so what we have, like I said, is this 12 volt LED package. You get them in all sorts of colours off eBay. These are ones I've had. All this is out of my scrap bin, really, apart from the box. On these I bought these little connector blocks just to make it a bit easier. Yeah, but the transistors I had, resistors I got knocking around, strip board I have, switches, everything really in my bits and pieces. Yeah, so that's that. Now the transistor, pick it up, it's small. All you need is an NPN transistor, Again, if you're not into electronics, you don't even need to know what it is, just need to make sure you get an NPN. This is a 2N2222, but there are equivalents. If you just Google equivalents 2N2222 transistor, you'll get a list come up. Amongst those will be a 2N304, a BC547, they'll all basically do the same thing. But these do have an orientation. So if you, well, that shows up very well. That's a kind of D shape. So on here there's 3 legs. You have a collector, a base and an emitter. So on the 2N222, if you was to Google 2N2222 pinout, you would get something like this. So flat side upwards, that's the emitter, that's the base in the middle, and the collector is on that side. So that's quite straightforward. So you do need to get that the right way around. Most important. And resistors, well, you know, that's a 22k, that's a 47k. They are all color coded resistors, but again, these are a couple I just had knocking around in my loose parts bin. If you wonder why they're different sizes, you don't need to worry about that. That's just that one is a 1/4 watt, and I think that one is a 1/2 watt. Can't remember, but I think that's a 1/2 watt. But if you just get 1/4 watt resistors, they'll do just well. That's just what I had in those values. Piece of strip board, Vero board. That was off a longer piece. I've just cut that down because we don't even need this much really, because there's very few connections, but it just makes it easier to assemble on a bit of strip board. And again, we've got these little screw terminal connectors. You can get these in various pinouts. This is a 3. You could use a 4 pinout for this, which would separate your switch. You could include the switch inside the box if you wanted, but I'm going to have external switches, so I've just gone for a 3-pin one. And a switch, well, this is just for example, just a single pole, single throw switch is all you need. Simple on off. Won't be using this one because I've got some in a panel. I'm going to use ones in a panel for mine anyway. So what I've done, just to make this easier, done a little drawing of the strip board. Now this is the bottom, if you like, although this diagram on here is of the top, just to make it, just to kind of simplify it a little bit. You see there's strips of copper on there with little holes in, which will accept the pinouts of these. Right, so when you put this, for example, in here, and you used to solder that in, get the same orientation as this. You see it, these skip every other strip, so they're nicely separated, which is good. It just makes it easier to make this. So first of all, solder that one in, then your resistors, so 47k. So what I will do is I'll have to bend the legs on this. So 2 will be close together because I will need to go in holes next to each other, and the other one, the collector, will have to be bent right the way across, so that misses. You can see on this diagram here, these are the pins of these, you've got these are the represent the strips. Probably not explain this very well. I've got it in my head, I know what I'm doing, but yeah, so, and this is the collector, base and emitter of the transistor. So collector is this one, flat side, remember, collector. Right, so that is going in that way round, back to front if you like, so the flat face is going to this side. So my emitter, my base needs to go in 2 holes. The emitter needs to go in the negative 12 volt, which will be this end one here, this bottom one. So that will go in there. Base next to it in a spare strip with nothing connected here. And again with the collector, it needs to go in a spare strip between these here. So that will go in something like that. Then the 47k resistor, bend that something like that. So that needs to go between the emitter and the base. Emitter and base. So any pins you like, any holes you like. So that can fit in there, something like that. And then the other, and this would be easier if I had a smaller one. So the 22k needs to go between the base and the other outlet. So that will need to go between, it's probably best that way round. So it needs to go in between there and there. You could actually get these in a little bit neater. Doesn't matter if I was kicking up in the air a little bit like that, as long as it's not making contact. I mean, you can even put these in. There we go. You can even put them in like that. Between the base and that spare, sorry, not the spare, the outlet. So that could sit something like that. It's perfectly okay. Then you have the wires on the LED. So the red one will be positive 12 volt, so that'll be this top one, this top pin. So any one of those holes along there, that can go in, which ain't going to stay there. And then the negative one will go off the collector, which is that one there. So that will go in something like that. Right, so these pinouts here, marked them on here. So there's your negative 12 volt at the bottom. That's one of your probes, wires, outlet, and that's the other probe, and the 12 volt positive will go in that top one. Switched, that will need to be switched. You won't want this on all the while. So that is basically it. So what we'll do is I'll solder all that together. We'll put some wires in it, and we'll give it a go. Right, that's all those soldered on. Speaking of solder, personally I like leaded. Up to you whatever you use, but I find leaded solder much easier. I've never really got on with unleaded. Just doesn't seem to work like it should do. But yeah, there we are. Oh, and the other thing is transistors don't like heat, so when you make your connections you want to be as quick as possible. and also leave that till last. Make all the other ones first, so there's not too much heat getting to that, you know, while you're doing everything else. Yeah, apart from that, that's ready to go. Apart from some wires, which I'll dig out some wires and connect up, and we'll give it a go. Right, well, let's give this a go. I don't even know what colour LED that is, so it's going to be as much a surprise to me as it is to you. So I've just got this on a 12 volt adapter, but obviously that would normally be running off your leisure battery. So, oh there we are, look. Looks like that's a white one. So it even picks up through your skin. Right, we know it works. Well, works by touching it anyway. So, it's my water in my water tank. And there we go. It works. Okay. So this is my water tank over here, my fresh water tank. Anyway, the grey tank is already fitted on the van, but it's the same. I've got the same thing fitted on that. So these are stainless steel button head screws, bolts. So the button is on the inside, the little hex bit, couple of washers, couple of nuts. So all I'll do when I get my get it fitted, the probe wires will just go on those two, like that, with a couple of eyes. Right, there we are. So that's finished item. I did actually fit the switch inside this box in the end. So it all goes in there. Okay, just got the 4 wires coming out the bottom. You've got the 12 volt positive and negative, and the 2 wires for the probes. Yeah, I put the switch in this one because this is the one that's going to be for my fresh water tank. So this is going to go on the back, on the inside where my filler is, next to that, so I can just flick that on when I do my fill, so I can see when it's up to level. So that should work quite well. That's ready to go in the van now. Yeah, I've just got to finish fitting my water tank now, that's all. So, and then I can check for leaks and all that stuff, and hope we don't get any. So that's the position of my water filler cap, and there's my little device for my level, so I can stand here, fill it up with the hose. As soon as that light come on, I know to stop filling it up. Yes, no water in there. Well, there is a little bit of water in the bottom, but yeah, not enough to trigger the thing yet. Yeah, so I've got my gas box all in as well. Pipe all runs along there, and that's the tank all done. Don't know what the hose is doing there, don't need that. Yeah, yeah, and I've just run another piece of wire around there. This is going to be for another socket, which is going to go here somewhere, and I've got some wires to feed the water pump. Yeah, so that's all coming along.